Welcome to Step 4 of Label Alert Extra's How-To Spotlight. I'm Christina Bechtold of Prime Label Consultants, and your guide to transitioning to the new nutrition facts. This summer, we saw a brief hiatus from this series as the final rule was released, and folks scrambled to understand its impact and nuances. This month, we continue the series with planned packaging changes. But before we can begin, we must understand which panel to place on our packages. This is because the FDA specifically noted in their new ruling that many packages, even now, are not using the appropriate panel, and that they, quote, intend to monitor the marketplace to ensure that the proper nutrition facts label format is used on the correct size package, unquote. So, we will do a quick review of how to select a compliant panel, and after that we will review what changes to packages will need to be made, and finally we'll look at an option for prioritizing the changes. With errors in about half of all current panels, and another significant portion not taking advantage of panel optimization, it's important to shine a spotlight on how to choose the right panel to start. This is a complex area, made even more complicated by new rules that require dual column panels. We only have time for an overview here, but essentially, choosing your panel will depend upon three factors: the surface area of your container, the vertical space available on your label, and the amount of product within your package. There are many types of containers, as you can see in this slide, and depending on what type they are, the surface area of the package that's available to contain labeling will determine which size of nutrition panel you're required to select. Cans, for instance, can only contain labeling on their sides and sometimes their lids, while boxes can contain labeling on all sides, including the bottom. This surface area is called total available labeling space and is tightly defined by the FDA. It's not, by the way, the size of the label. You can see in this Tabasco example a little known fact: the total available labeling space is often larger than the actual label itself. Each type of package, whether it's a bottle, tray, box, or bag, has a different way of calculating this space. Once you have determined the surface area available for labeling, you can select your panel type. But you can't just pick any panel out of the group. You must first calculate the available vertical labeling space and see if the standard vertical format above or side-by-side vitamin format just below it will fit on your package. If it does, you must use that format. You cannot use a different panel just to make room for ad copy or other label elements. But if neither of those fit, you might try for a split panel format instead. Once again, if this one doesn't fit, go ahead and use the tabular format. For containers with over 40 square inches of available labeling space, those are all your options. You have to pick one of these four panel formats. But if your package has 40 square inches or less of available space, you may also qualify for the linear format. But be warned, you must prove to the FDA if they ask that the other formats don't fit. In addition, these smaller packages qualify for other ways of reducing the panel size. But this is a complex area with many conditions, and you should be careful when making these choices, especially with the heightened scrutiny from the FDA during this transition period. There are some people who think that the impact of the new regulation is just a new set of numbers within their existing panel box. Unfortunately, it's much more complicated than that. In fact, there are many more panel types, including 3 new situations where a larger dual column is mandatory. Choosing these panels can be very tricky and depends upon the amount of product, the size of the item, the size of the package, the amounts of the nutrients, and other considerations. Many experts and software programs are still figuring this out. Prime Label offers a Nutrition Navigator expert system called EasyForm, which is the only tool that we know of to correctly select nutrition panels accurately. After selecting your panel, it's time to compare it to your old panel and see if it fits in the same spot. If so, you're lucky and will merely need to relabel, switching out the data and little else. But if the new panel is larger, then you'll need to look at reformulating the entire label, moving the panel, adjusting ad copy, and other elements. Finally, you need to ask whether the new panel will force any changes to claims or front-of-pack labeling. If this is the case, there are more things to consider. Reformatting is still an option, but the brand identity may have been compromised, and more drastic actions such as repackaging or reformulation might have to be chosen. If you need to change your nutrition story of your product, there are only 3 things really you can affect. You can change your item size, your package size, or your formula. But this is a complicated and interdependent area of nutrition trade-offs. For folks that want to optimize their nutrition story by exploring options to modify panels, products, and packaging, come to Prime Label's dedicated Nutrition 2016 training November 2nd and 3rd in Chicago, and select the class for R&D and marketing professionals. We also have 3 other in-depth classes as well. One for regulatory professionals creating the panels, one for managers planning the transition, and one for EasyForm users to convert their panels to the new format. Now that you have a sense of panel changes, you can map these changes against your entire product set to get an idea of the impact for each product and get a 50,000-foot view of the magnitude of the changes. This map will be crucial to deciding which products will need minor tweaks and which will need major tweaking, and will be invaluable when figuring out a transition game plan. Now that you know how many products need what kind of changes, from easy data edits to more difficult and comprehensive reworking, you can overlay your competitive situation and start to categorize them into 4 buckets. Those products needing just relabeling, and those needing reformatting, repackaging, and reformulation. Each company will prioritize differently to its unique needs, but this kind of a framework will be crucial to planning the phasing of which packaging changes come first, second, and third, and will be essential to maintaining market share in a volatile, changing environment. Now that you know how your product set needs to transition, it's time to line up your team to get this done. Make sure that your graphic designers are trained and ready, and your pre-press and printing capacity reserved, because there's going to be an inevitable logjam in those production shops, guaranteed. SGS and Prime Label have formed a strategic partnership to provide one-stop shop streamlined services to help you be successful in this huge undertaking. Once your resources are lined up, companies will need to turn their unique priorities into a timeline that makes sense. Make sure that all graphic design is completed by spring of 2018 so that labels have time to be printed and affixed to product by the FDA's July 26th deadline, 2018. If you need help with the regulatory side of this huge transition, the good news is that Prime Label is ready to support you with services that can be used at any level of your company or process. Check out our free style guide in the resource section below, our upcoming Nutrition 2016 training, or navigate to Prime Label's or SGS Co's websites for more information. We hope that you found this 4th installment of Label Alert Extra useful and plan to join us next time for Step 5, Audit, Process, Data, and Suppliers. Thanks so much for your time. We wish you the best of luck as you navigate the tsunami that is Nutrition 2016.